This is a real Jeweled Lotus. This is not a proxy. I'm about to burn it. This card, as well as the other cards which you see laid out here, were all banned today. I didn't see this coming, and I feel like a lot of others didn't see this coming. There's my Jeweled Lotus. So, there's a bit to talk about today. Yeah, I didn't see this coming. I don't think anybody else did. I like this. I think this is good news. As you can see, I have these cards here. I own at least one copy of every card that was banned. I had 2 Jeweled Lotuses, 3 Docksides, 1 Mana Crypt, and 2 Nadus. The Nadus are whatever, you know. It was already, you know, banned in Modern, and the writing was on the wall for that, but the rest of these cards, this kind of came out of nowhere. But as I said, I'm a fan of this. I like it when cards get banned because it makes things interesting. And as you can see, I have many of these. A lot of these cards are going to be worthless now. For example, Jeweled Lotus. And I'm okay with taking the hit. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. But I think this is better for the game because decks have become so homogeneous, in Commander especially, with things like Jeweled Lotus, Dockside, Mana Crypt. When you start upgrading your deck, you have to include these cards. If you say you're in red, if you want your deck to be as good as it can be, you have to have Dockside. If you're playing basically literally any deck and you want it to be as good as it can, you have to have Mana Crypt, you have to have Jeweled Lotus. It's gotten to the point where those cards which you have to have in your deck have become so many that every deck is basically the same. You know, there's no room for customization. You put in like 60 staples, and then you have some room for lands, and that's about it. So yes, I'm a fan of this. I hope that they do this more, and I think this sets a big precedent. Prior to today, I didn't think these cards would ever get banned outside of Nadu. Yeah, I thought that was going to get banned, but I didn't think they would ever touch these cards. Mana Crypt's been around since the game existed, right? Basically. Dockside, that's been around for quite a while. Jeweled Lotus, I didn't... this is the most stupefying one to me because this card isn't old. This card was made, you know, just a few years ago, and now it's getting banned already. But this one in particular, this card is absolutely useless now because this was only playable in Commander, and now it's banned in Commander, so it's playable nowhere. These other cards, at least, you know, Mana Crypt, you can play that in Vintage. It's great in Vintage. This still has use. Dockside, you can play that in Vintage as well. You could play that in Legacy, I guess. I don't know if there's any decks that necessarily want it, but it is, in theory, at least playable in those formats. Jeweled Lotus, though, Jeweled Lotus is absolutely unplayable anywhere now. So it's worthless. I would quote a price for what it is right now, but by the time I post this video, it's going to be different. I looked at it, you know, at the start of the day, this was $100 plus. I looked at it, I saw it at $20. What is it by the time I'm going to post this? I don't know. Same with the prices for these things. But I'm excited for where this will lead the format and kind of the precedent that it sets, because now I get to take Jeweled Lotus out of my deck and I can play something else in its place, something maybe that I hadn't played before. I had actually already started doing this just because I didn't like how it made my decks. I used to have several Mana Crypts, and I think I had 3 or 4 decks with them in it, but I just took them out of the decks. I just had this, it wasn't even in a deck, I just had this card, and I stopped playing Mana Crypt as a whole just because it's a card where if I wanted to make the deck as good as it could be, I had to have a Mana Crypt. So that means in every deck that I made, basically, I needed to have a Mana Crypt. So I decided I'm just going to do, go far to the other side of that. If instead of playing a Mana Crypt in every deck, I'm going to play a Mana Crypt in none of my decks, and I just took them out of all of my decks. Dockside, I probably should have done that the same. It's too late now. Well, I guess it's not too late now. I have to take them out of my decks, but I just have these Docksides now, I guess. Same with Jeweled Lotus. And I like how this fixes problems with games where it just feels completely unfair, especially in a game like Commander where it's a singleton format, so you only have one of each card in your deck, and your deck is 100 cards. So you know, you have such a small chance of opening the game with a turn 1 Mana Crypt or Jeweled Lotus or something like that, that when it does happen and it's not happening to you, it usually feels pretty bad because it's like, oh well, look who's lucky today. But when you remove fast mana like that, I think it makes things more interesting. And that brings me to a card like Soul Ring, where, you know, this is the ubiquitous commander card. It's in literally every commander deck. It's in every pre-con. It's like this, you know, this signifies commander. And I actually would like to see Soul Ring get banned, and the precedent has been set. These cards have been banned. Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt. Why not ban Soul Ring as well? The card is only like $1, right? It's been printed so many times. It's not like it's gonna, you know, destroy so much value. Yes, there are expensive versions of it. Like, you know, there's a Kaladesh Invention that's like $1,000 or whatever, and it would suck to be holding on to that and have Soul Ring get banned, but I actually would be in favor of banning Soul Ring. You know, it's kind of the same thing where someone gets a turn 1 Soul Ring, it's like, look how lucky that person is today. But you could say the same thing about other super staples, say maybe like Cyclonic Rift. If you're playing blue, you're playing Cyclonic Rift. If you want to make your deck as good as it can be and you're not playing Cyclonic Rift, you're probably doing it wrong. Same with Mana Drain. If you're playing blue, you want to be playing Mana Drain. It just, you know, this news today just opens up so much possibility, where prior to these bannings, the idea of banning something like this was just kind of, you know, you might think about what if this happened, but it's not actually going to happen. You're not going to think about it seriously, like, are they actually going to ban this? But now you can think about it seriously, like, they might actually ban whatever card, like Smothering Tithe. I could see that getting banned. Maybe some bans could lead to some things getting unbanned even. You know, I'm a fan of bans and also unbans. I like it when the format changes. And now with, say, Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus gone, it makes me wonder what are people going to go to replace those? Because usually when something gets banned, people try to find the most similar thing as possible to replace it with that's happened in the past. And I feel like people are probably going to go to Mana Vault as the next best thing that needs to go in every deck, which is kind of funny because this already did need to go in basically every deck if you wanted to make it as good as possible. But I imagine, seeing as this one did not get banned, it's probably going to go up in value, I would think, because doesn't this just now become the best, basically the best Mana Rock and Commander outside of maybe Soul Ring? You know, you have Chrome Mox, Mox Diamond. Those were also kind of the next best things, so I guess maybe those cards will become more desirable now, but those ones can also they can just be banned now. So it does suck to be holding on to these cards and have them basically lose all their value, but it's also exciting to think of, you know, what's this going to hold for the future with the actual playability of the format and the cards, you know, cards that people might actually play now that they didn't before. And now there are a few super staples that go in literally every deck, so it opens up room to make deck building a little bit more interesting. So, you know, this news just came out. I waited, you know, a little bit at least. Like I waited, I don't know, an hour or so to kind of make sure. Like somebody shared this news with me, and my first thing was, "Is this real?" Like that's what I saw. The first reaction for everybody seeing this news was, "Is this real? This is a joke, right? Like this can't be real news. Banning these cards, they're not actually going to do that." But it is real, I guess. So yeah, it's very exciting to talk about. I feel like this has to be some of the biggest news to come out of Magic the Gathering, like, ever, really. Like, it's not necessarily the biggest thing. Like, if some cards are banned, okay, but the cards which were banned, it's a big deal. And yeah, it's a big deal for Magic today. You can tell I'm a little bit at a loss for words here, but I wanted to talk about this. It's, you know, this is big news. So let me know what you think in the comments below. What should I do with this Jeweled Lotus? Because now this is, you know, I'm gonna keep this. This is kind of this is gonna be one of my special cards. I could still play this in a deck, I guess. You know, I might need to flatten out this bubble here, but maybe I'll frame it or something. Let me know what you think about the bannings in the comments below. I'm sure there are lots of different opinions. There are probably people that do not like this at all. I'm sure there are people that hate this idea. Maybe there's some others that like the idea. What cards should be banned or unbanned? Let me know. But that's what I wanted to talk about today. So if you're still watching, thanks for watching. It'd be cool if you can like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. Everyone should come join my Discord server. You can find a link to that in the video description below, and there's definitely a lot of discussion about this going on there right now. If you're looking to buy any custom playmats or foil tokens, you can find a link to my store in the video description as well. Also, I'd just like to thank all the patrons that support me on Patreon, but otherwise though, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.